Ladies and gentlemen, today, I want to talk to you about something that sits at the very core of every breakthrough, every transformation, every success story you've ever heard or dreamed of. It's not luck, it's not talent, it's not even opportunity. It's about your standards, what you're willing to accept, what you demand from yourself, and what you refuse to settle for any longer. There comes a moment in every person's life when they look around and realize they're not where they want to be. Not because they couldn't be, but because somewhere along the way, they got comfortable. They accepted less. They tolerated mediocrity. But deep down, something keeps whispering that you were made for more, and that voice is right. You see, when you raise your standards, when you draw that line in the sand and say enough is enough, everything begins to shift. Your actions change. Your circle changes. Your results change. And I'm here to tell you today, if you want to get anything you truly desire, you've got to start by demanding more from the person staring back at you in the mirror. It's not about arrogance. It's about alignment. Lining up your vision with your values, your habits with your hopes. Because once you decide to raise your standards, the world has no choice but to rise up and meet you at the level of your belief. There is a truth that echoes through every life, every generation, every heart that's ever dared to dream. It is a truth that humbles us, challenges us, and ultimately sets us free. You don't get what you want in this life. You get what you tolerate. Wanting is easy. Everyone wants more success, more peace, more love, more fulfillment. But wanting alone does not move the needle. What determines your life is not the strength of your wishes, but the standards you are willing to uphold when no one's watching. Look around you. Everything in your life right now, your health, your relationships, your bank account, your joy, or lack thereof, it's all a reflection, not of what you've hoped for, but what you've allowed, what you've permitted, what you've settled for. And I say this not to condemn you, but to awaken you. Because once you see this, once you truly understand that your life bends to the level of your standards, then you can begin to lift those standards and watch your life rise with them. There are many who go through life, quietly suffering, feeling stuck, held back by forces they believe are outside of their control. They point to their past, their upbringing, their lack of resources or support. And while those things are real and painful, they are not final. What shapes your life, more than any circumstance, is your decision to say, I will not tolerate this any longer. That is the moment where everything changes. That is the moment where life begins to respond. Some tolerate stress as normal, carrying it like a badge of honor, believing that chaos is just part of the journey. Some tolerate broken relationships, thinking that love must come with pain, or drama, or silence. Others tolerate laziness in their daily habits, procrastination in their purpose, excuses in place of discipline. And as long as they do, life will give them exactly what they are willing to accept, not an ounce more. But then something happens. A person wakes up. They get tired of the lies they've told themselves. They get fed up with mediocrity. They draw a line, not in sand that shifts, but in stone that will not move. They say to themselves, this is no longer who I am. I will not tolerate this fear. I will not tolerate this weakness. I will not tolerate being less than the person I was created to be. And in that moment, a fire is lit, not just of motivation, but of conviction, of decision. Because you see, change doesn't begin with action. It begins with a shift in identity, a new level of self-respect, a higher demand for excellence. And when that happens, when your soul starts to burn with the awareness that you are made for more, the excuses fall away, the distractions lose their grip. You stop negotiating with your goals and start fighting for them like your life depends on it, because it does. Raising your standards doesn't mean being perfect. It means being committed. It means showing up when it's hard, when it's inconvenient, when it costs you. It means no longer blaming others for your situation, but owning your life with holy determination. It means refusing to live by default and choosing to live by design. And the beautiful thing is, once you stop tolerating less, you start attracting more, not just material things, but peace, clarity, strength, and a deep sense of purpose that no one can take from you. The world will often offer you less than what you deserve, but you don't have to take it. Just because something is common doesn't mean it's acceptable. Just because others have settled doesn't mean you should. You were not created to blend in. You were created to rise. And rising requires resolve. It requires raising your voice. When the world says stay quiet, it requires stepping forward. When fear tells you to freeze, it requires walking away from what's comfortable and walking into what's possible. There are people who will misunderstand you when you raise your standards. They'll say you've changed. They'll say you think you're better. But don't let that shake you. Keep walking. Keep rising. Because when you decide to no longer tolerate what's holding you back, you'll find others who are walking the same road. You'll find clarity in your calling. You'll find strength you didn't know you had. And you'll find that the life you once dreamed of isn't far off. It's just on the other side of the line you were afraid to draw. No one can raise your standards for you. Not your family. Not your friends. Not your mentors. It must come from within. It is the sacred responsibility of every man and woman to look within and say, what am I allowing that's keeping me small? What am I tolerating that's keeping me bound? And when the answer comes, don't run from it. Face it, speak to it, and then rise above it. You were not placed on this earth to merely survive. You were not born to settle. You were born to grow, to overcome, to build, to conquer. And the path to that life, the one you truly want, the one you quietly long for, is paved not with wishes, but with decisions. You must decide, today, right now, what you will no longer allow, what you will no longer accept, what you will no longer tolerate. Because when you raise your standards, you raise your life, and everything you've ever wanted begins to meet you at the level of your unwavering faith and uncompromising belief in what's possible. When you stop living small and start living with purpose and fire and vision and relentless pursuit of the extraordinary life that has always been waiting for you, just beyond the borders of what you used to think was enough, but now know is far below. You're truly capable of when you finally decide to never again tolerate anything less than the greatness that lives inside you. There is a battle that rages not in the streets, not in the fields, but in the minds of men and women. A quiet war, invisible to the eye, but felt in every decision, every emotion, every direction a life can take. And that battleground is where destinies are shaped or lost. Because your life will never rise higher than the thoughts you allow to take root in your mind. The quality of your thinking will always set the ceiling for the quality of your living. If you want to change your life, you must first change the way you think. You must upgrade your mindset, because only then can you truly upgrade your life. You see, the mind is like fertile ground. It doesn't care what kind of seed you plant, whether it's a seed of doubt or a seed of faith. It will grow what you give it. Plant fear, and fear will flourish. Plant hope, and hope will rise. Whatever dominates your thoughts will ultimately shape your reality. Many people pray for change, cry for breakthroughs, wait for miracles, but never confront the toxic patterns of thinking that are quietly keeping them stuck in the same cycles, year after year. They build cages with their own beliefs, and wonder why they can't fly. There are voices that have spoken into your mind since childhood. Some of them told you that you weren't enough, that you were too broken, too weak, too different, and maybe for a while you believed them. But I came to tell you, those voices were lying. They came to dim your light, to plant limits where God planted potential, and you've got to uproot them. You've got to tear down every lie, every stronghold, every false label that has wrapped itself around your identity like chains. Because as long as your mind is enslaved, your life will never taste freedom. Renewing the mind is not a one-time thing. It is a daily discipline, a conscious decision to reject fear and choose faith, to silence doubt and speak truth, to stop rehearsing past failures and start declaring future victories. It means training your mind like an athlete trains their body, feeding it with the right thoughts, stretching it beyond comfort, and guarding it like a fortress. Because the enemy knows, if he can defeat you in your mind, he can destroy your potential before it ever sees the light of day. Now hear me. This is not some shallow positivity or empty motivational talk. This is spiritual warfare. This is life or death. Because every habit, every choice, every outcome flows from the wellspring of your thoughts. What you believe about yourself shapes how you act. What you believe about others shapes how you love. What you believe about your future shapes how you persevere through pain. So if you want a new life, it starts with a new mind. Think about the people who inspire you most. They didn't get there just by talent or luck. They learned to think differently. Where others saw walls, they saw doors. Where others saw setbacks, they saw setups. Where others saw scarcity, they saw abundance. Their outer lives were a reflection of an inner transformation, and you have that same power. It's not reserved for the chosen few. It's available to anyone bold enough to believe that change is possible, that they are not victims of their circumstances, but architects of their future. Some of you have dreams so big, they scare you, and that's good. That means you're reaching beyond the old programming. But dreams alone are not enough. Without the mindset to match, they remain fantasies. It takes grit, it takes vision, it takes a refusal to go back to small thinking when the call on your life is anything but small. You've got to stop feeding your fears, and start feeding your faith. Stop aligning with defeat, and start walking like someone who knows heaven stands behind them. An upgraded mindset says, I can. When the world says I can't, it says not yet. When others say never, it says I am worthy. Even when the scars try to say otherwise, it looks at every storm, and says this will not sink me, it will strengthen me. And the moment you begin to think this way, your entire world begins to shift. You attract new people, you pursue new goals, you stop settling for less and start striving for purpose. And suddenly what once seemed impossible becomes inevitable. I'm not saying the road will be easy, I'm saying it will be worth it. Because when your mind is right, your steps follow. When your mind is filled with truth, your heart finds peace. When your thoughts are aligned with your calling, no obstacle can stop you, not permanently. Setbacks become setups, delays become preparation, and pain becomes fuel for purpose. But it all begins in the mind. Some of you are standing on the edge of your next level, not held back by people, not held back by lack, but held back by the old story you've been telling yourself. That story that says you're too late, too flawed, too ordinary. But I came to remind you, as long as you have breath, it is never too late. You are not too flawed, you are being refined, you are not ordinary. You were fearfully and wonderfully made, with a calling that no one else can fulfill but you. So today is the day you must make a choice. Will you continue to let old thoughts control a new season, or will you rise up and say, no more living beneath my potential, no more agreeing with fear, no more shrinking back when I was made to stand tall. It's time to upgrade the way you see yourself. It's time to speak differently, walk differently, think differently, because when your mind changes, your life will not stay the same. New doors will open, new strength will rise, new favor will find you, and you'll realize, the breakthrough didn't come from the outside, it was birthed in the secret place, in the silence, in the wrestling, in the renewing of a mind that finally decided to believe that there is more, that you are more, and that your life can be a reflection of the divine greatness planted in you from the beginning of time, waiting only for your agreement, your alignment, your decision to think higher, to believe deeper, to rise further, and to never again settle for a life that doesn't reflect the glory you were meant to carry. There comes a moment in every life when a person must look in the mirror, not just at the face staring back, but deep into the soul, and ask a hard question. Am I living by design, or drifting by default? Because the truth is, most people never choose their standard. They inherit it, absorb it from the world around them, and settle into the warm comfort of average. But there is nothing sacred about average. There is nothing powerful about blending in. The path to greatness, the road to becoming unstoppable, begins the very moment you raise your standard, and declare that certain things are no longer optional in your life. See, mediocrity is not a product of low potential, it's the result of low standards. It's the quiet agreement to accept less than you're capable of. It's the silent compromise that trades purpose for comfort. But those who change the world, those who break barriers, and shift generations, are not the most talented, or the most gifted. They are the ones who have drawn a line in the sand, and said, I will not go back, I will not play small, I will not tolerate anything beneath what God placed inside of me. And what separates the average from the unstoppable is not some magical blessing or secret formula. It is non-negotiable standards. It is a mindset that says, I don't do excuses, I don't do halfway, I don't do lukewarm. It's a way of living where discipline becomes a lifestyle, and excellence becomes a habit. It's waking up with purpose, and going to bed with integrity, knowing you didn't coast through the day, you conquered it. Far too many people want more out of life, while refusing to change what they allow. They pray for success, but entertain distraction. They desire greatness, but tolerate laziness. You cannot expect a harvest when you have not plowed the ground with sweat and sacrifice. You cannot expect divine favor when you refuse to take human responsibility. The power of non-negotiable standards is this: it trains the world how to treat you, it trains your mind how to think, and it trains your soul how to endure. Somewhere along the journey, we must decide that the old patterns are no longer welcome, that average effort, average attitude, average relationships, average dreams, they have no place in a life marked by divine calling. Because when you settle for average, you silence your authority, you dim your light, you begin to live life reacting instead of leading. But when you raise your standard, when you set fire to your excuses, when you make excellence the minimum, everything begins to shift. You speak differently, you walk with a certain conviction, you don't wait for motivation, you move from commitment, you don't hope for change, you enforce it, because your standards are not based on how you feel, but on who you are becoming. You stop negotiating with the old version of yourself, and start demanding growth. You stop trying to fit in with the crowd, and start standing out with courage. That is the power of a life built on unshakable standards. And make no mistake, it will cost you. The higher your standard, the more uncomfortable your journey. You'll lose people, you'll outgrow habits, you'll walk alone at times, but the reward is far greater than the sacrifice. Because while average is crowded, greatness is lonely, but it is in that space, in that solitude, that God refines you, molds you, and reveals who you truly are. You are not created to blend in with the status quo. You are not designed to settle in the valley, when the mountaintop is your inheritance. But the mountaintop will not come to you. You must climb, and climbing requires more than desire. It demands discipline. It demands a code of honor, a set of values so strong that nothing can shake them. When you decide that you will no longer tolerate dishonesty, laziness, or fear ruling your life, you become dangerous to darkness, and unstoppable in your purpose. And hear me now, this isn't about arrogance. This isn't about striving to prove your worth. This is about alignment. This is about living in agreement with your calling. It's about knowing that to carry the weight of your destiny, your standards must match your assignment. You can't walk into a new season with the mindset of the old one. You can't carry revival in your soul while carrying compromise in your character. Something has to shift. Something has to rise. Something has to become non-negotiable. You are not called to live from paycheck to paycheck, from fear to fear, from relationship to relationship. You are called to build, to create, to multiply, to leave a legacy. But legacies are not built on wishes. They are built on standards. They are forged in fire. They are shaped in the secret place, where decisions are made when no one is watching. It's not what you do occasionally that defines your destiny. It's what you refuse to compromise on daily. When your yes is sacred, and your no is immovable. When your habits are aligned with your vision. When your values are louder than your circumstances. Then you begin to live, not from the outside in, but from the inside out. And that's when the world begins to notice. Not because you shouted the loudest, but because you stood the firmest. Because your life became a lighthouse, not swayed by storms, but steady through them. Because your standard was not based on culture or comfort, but on truth and conviction. And one day, when you look back, you'll see it clearly. The moments you said no to average were the moments you said yes to purpose. The times you stood alone were the times you were truly being strengthened. The standards you held on to when no one else understood were the very things that carried you into the promise. You didn't become unstoppable by accident. You became unstoppable because you dared to expect more, to demand more, to live by a code that was unshakable, unbreakable, and untouchable by the mediocrity that surrounds so many. And that is what the world needs right now. Not more noise, not more compromise, not more passive living, but men and women with fire in their bones, vision in their hearts, and standards in their souls, that refuse to bend to the tides of fear, distraction, or comfort. Because once you've tasted the power of living by non-negotiable standards, you will never go back to average again. You won't fit where you used to. You won't crave what you once did, and you won't question who you are becoming. You will know with a holy confidence that you were made for more, and you are walking it out, not by chance but by choice, not by talent, but by truth, not by height, but by the hidden strength that comes from raising your life to the level of your God-given standard, and refusing to come down for anyone or anything, because you have tasted what it means to be unstoppable, and there's no going back to average ever again, because your standard is now your signature, and your signature is the echo of a life fully aligned with purpose, and power, and conviction, and honor, and fire, that will not be put out, and a future that is no longer a possibility, but a certainty, because you've made it your mission to live not by accident, but by assignment, through the power of your standards, that no longer bend, that no longer shake, that no longer retreat, and that will carry you further than you ever dreamed possible, because now you are becoming exactly who you were always meant to be. So now the choice is yours. Will you walk away from this moment unchanged, or will you rise with a fire in your spirit, and declare that average is no longer enough? Let today mark the death of compromise, and the birth of conviction. Set your standards so high that your life becomes a reflection of purpose, not pressure. Step boldly into the life you were born to live, not by accident, but by divine intention. The world doesn't need another person blending in. It needs you, fully awakened, fully committed, and fully unstoppable. Now go, and never lower that standard again.